When it comes to considering the evaluation criteria of why, we will be focusing on determining the purpose of the work. Was it created simply to inform or report research findings, or is it meant to persuade or editorialize? I may find that the information was produced simply to entertain. I will need to keep a close eye on the information to make sure it wasn't produced to advertise or sell a product. I may even determine that the information was designed to deceive, with or without ill intentions. I will also need to determine the intended audience for the information and be wary of information that was obviously produced with a specific audience in mind, because that may be an indication of potentially biased information. Let's consider this research question. How can incorporating more fermented foods like kombucha into our diet help improve our gut health? If I start my search using a standard internet search engine like Google, I will more likely encounter information that has a less than scholarly purpose, like advertising or deception. For example, let's assume I know very little about kombucha and I want to find out some general background information to help me brainstorm and design a better research database search strategy. Here, I'll simply type in the word kombucha into the Google search box. Even on my initial search results page, I find a number of ads selling the various kombucha products. Let's ignore the obvious advertising on the page and examine the first website result. Keep in mind that right now I'm simply looking for background information. The first thing I notice is that in addition to the background information, I see that there are ads scattered around the website. But really, this is no different than what I would find in a magazine or newspaper article that would also include advertising throughout the content. This website starts out offering basic background information and step-by-step instructions, but as I scroll down, I see that the website also recommends a specific brewing jar with a link to purchase it. I can now assume that the purpose of this article is twofold, to inform and to sell me a product. So what should I do when applying the why evaluation to this information? Well, I probably won't quote this article in my research paper, but I may take some notes on keywords and phrases to incorporate into my research database search strategy. Even when you're using research databases, you will need to be aware that the content you retrieve can be produced for a variety of purposes. Even though you will be less likely to find information intended to sell or deceive than you would when searching the internet using a search engine, you may find information produced to persuade or to present a very specific point of view. For example, let's take a look at an article I retrieved using the newspaper source database. Here, we find a very short article about kombucha out of the Times in the UK. Now is a good time to point out that because many of the databases are international in scope, pay attention to any geographic point of view in case it affects the relevance of the information to an American audience, if that matters for your research question. Also, we should note that when we bring up the full record, we can see that this article appears in the paper's editorial section, and therefore the purpose of this information is to provide opinion. If we decided we wanted to incorporate this information into my research project, I should make sure to stick to the facts or attempt to locate alternative points of view to consider. Let's try to purposefully locate information that has the purpose to inform or present research. One way to do this would be to choose a subject-specific research database that would include scholarly and peer-reviewed journal articles. Because my research question has a health-related focus, let's go directly to the Medline database. My search strategy has evolved based on the information I've picked up from the website and newspaper articles I've already considered. The second item on my results sounds promising. Let's look at the abstract to see if the authors disclose the purpose of the article. About halfway down in the abstract, we find this sentence. Here, we provide a critical review of current human intervention studies that analyze the effect of fermented foods on the composition and/or function of the human gut microbiota. So the purpose of this article is a review of other studies. For the purposes of applying the why evaluation criteria, I would consider this to have an informative purpose. Here's another article that focuses on kombucha and sounds promising. When I examine the abstract, I don't get a very clear sense of the purpose of the research article, so I'm going to pull up the full text and see if I can find the purpose. Once I examine the full text of the research study and start reading, I find this sentence at the end of the introduction. The objective of this study was to investigate through metagenomic analysis whether the gut microbiota changed during the progression of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease upon induction of kombucha tea and its effect on fat accumulation in the liver. Because the purpose of this article is to present findings of a research study, I can conclude that the why evaluation criteria is met for my research paper. The two articles that I located using the Medline database would be potential sources that I would then want to put to the test of the other evaluation criteria.